This is Ginger Balch from In Sheep's Clothing Yarn Shop, welcoming you to another episode of Focus on Fiber. I'm super thrilled today to be welcoming Berroco yarn rep Andra Asars to revisit the fabulous Zick scarf that was introduced several shows ago. Hi, Andra.
Hi, Ginger.
I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
It is, isn't it? So anyway, I was introduced to the Zack last winter.
Yes.
You had it up on Facebook. You were showing scarf after scarf after scarf, and you reeled me right in. I said, okay, going to have to make one of those, going to have to get some of that yarn.
This was certainly the it project this past winter. Another yarn shop owner directed me to it first, sometime around the holidays. It was on Ravelry. I'm sure you've talked to your viewers about Ravelry. And there's a designer in, I think she's in Germany, who put this up as her only design. And it was so intriguing because she was doing easy knitting. It's a one row repeat. I'm sure you discussed that last time. And there's not a lot of thinking necessary once you get the project set.
Right.
So what happened was just wonderful to see the Facebook community just light up with the zigzags. In February or so is when we started posting it for real. I started knitting it during the Super Bowl. That was how easy this project is. It was not a problem to knit during the half quarter.
And I just have to ask you one question. Did you find that you had to start using markers? Did you use markers on yours?
No, I'm sorry. No.
Okay, I got lost. I had to have my markers, and it was good.
I'll admit that. So yeah, I was traveling in February with a group of women, and all of them saw my original zigzag and decided, oh, we absolutely need to start this. And they're very experienced knitters, and yes, every one of them got out the markers after a few rows.
Yeah.
I have the luxury of knitting alone often, and if you're quiet, getting the 12 stitch repeat set is not so horrible or hard, or you can just keep things lined up. But in a crowded room with all sorts of distractions,
easy to lose your track. Yeah,
it's so easy to just get completely messed up on these things. So the beautiful thing with Facebook was we were able to hashtag Zack, and we're still doing it as people post. I do share them and put the hashtag in. So if you search on Facebook with the hashtag, up comes a downhill skier in Europe who I'm sure is very upset that all this knitting comes up under his hashtag. But then you'll see all of these scarves. It's very funny. He's German, and something with his name and Zack shows up. I can't understand any of the rest of the posts. And then there's scarves and scarves and more scarves. So today I brought with you mine just to share with you the differences in the colors and to talk about the getting it set up and some gauge differences, and then some of the newer colors that Lang is showing. My very first one, it's an interesting story. When Bonnie, the store owner who showed me this on Ravelry, pointed it out, I couldn't wait to get started. I was so antsy, you know that feeling. I need to knit now. And there wasn't sufficient time for me to order yarn or pick carefully colors. And you know, I have sales materials in my car, and these, I had 8 balls of pastel and other colors of the Lang Millie Baby, and they were abused, tired little souls. And yeah, they weren't really appropriate to show as a sales sample anymore. And so they were just sitting in a bag in my car, and the light bulb went off. That is what I'm going to use. So I diverted from the pattern, as I always do, which makes my life so much harder. And I took those 8 skeins and tried to pair them up. Your readers or your viewers will remember that this scarf works with higher contrast of 2 different colors. For example, we might take this purple and lilac and peach color and then maybe stripe it. Let's not scare people. Let's use maybe a green, greens and teal color for the stripe on here. So the pattern will call for 2 balls of each color, and that way you just use a color A and a color B in your striping. Well, I didn't follow my own rules or the rules of the pattern because I never do. So what I had were 8 different balls on the table, and I matched them up with pairs as much as they would work. So my first project was this one, and instead of following 4 balls like the pattern said, I used 6, and instead of using 2 or 3 of each of 2 colors, I used 1 each of 6 different colors, just to make my life hard. And believe me, it did. This beautiful piece is not traveling with me in public anymore. Today's probably her last day out, because she makes things difficult to explain. So you may be able to see here, if I hold this up, you can see that there's 2 colors here, color A and color B, and then you can see this jarring change. And then this is where I switched into my 3rd and 4th ball. And then somewhere down here where I switched from these Lily Pulitzer colors, I call them the pink and green, it switches to a pastel and a teal. And that would have been the 5th and 6th balls. So this is hard because, as you know, in the store, your customers they see a garment, I want to make that, and you say, oh, it's 2 each of these colors, and this was difficult because, oh, well, it's 1 each of 6 different colors, and it's not the way the pattern says, and it caused difficulty. But it was a beautiful gauge swatch to show you and the other knit shop owners what happens when you start doing the striping. And what's most interesting on this piece is how the colors change. And that I found very, very exciting. So for example, you actually happen to have the colors I used in your package here. So I used color 50, which is rainbows. I like to look at it as a rainbow color. And then I used a pastel, actually it's closer to this one, a pastel. And this is so bright, but the pastel tones it all down. And I was very interested to watch, has it changed what the colors were doing. And because these yarns are random repeaters, there's no repeat. It's random striping. So there's no A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. You can't predict what's going on. So then you could see these just doing all randomness, and there's no part where the stripes are repeating, which is lovely for some and very jarring for folks who like calm, repetitive, like Bach, where it's just repetitive and you know what's coming and it's comfortable. This is very uncomfortable for people who like control. Well, and there I am.
I did notice that a lot of people do, they look at the sample and like, oh, okay, and I show them, this is what I used, this is what I used, but you still can't guarantee. And I tell them, you can't guarantee, depending on where you start with this ball and where you start with this one, it will look different.
Completely different. I say they're like, is it fraternal twins, where they're related, but they're different.
Right, right.
Yes. So I've retired my beautiful 6 skein sample project mess, and I did start
I think it's
then.
beautiful. I love it.
Then I did start for the summer another one that would be following the rules, 2 balls each of 2 colors, so that I could easily describe. And so in this case, I used, and I brought for your viewers to see, this is how the navy blue in here looks before we do the striping. If you just knit the blue that's in that scarf all by itself, you would just get blues and grays, which is very calming, but of course it's random. And then I actually striped this blue and gray one with a pastel one very similar to this color. And if you can hold that up, Ginger, you'll see that's what I ended up with. And what was very interesting to me is that when I got started up here, it was all these blacks and all of these light greens, and I was not happy with this piece. But then I got down to these colors, and especially in this section, I was singing. It was so happy, and it has a very happy end. And when I wrap it around and take it to show people, everybody reacts differently to a different section. They'll often say, that's my favorite section. No, this is my favorite section. And this is a very interesting thing. And one of the store owners in New Hampshire is actually doing a color workshop based on these, so that she can explain, I'm personally attracted to this section in here. And she'll say, well, that's because these colors and this is how they work on the spectrum, and words that I don't understand, but it all makes perfect sense to me. She's just going off on the colors. It's good. It's very good. Now your piece is purple, and so purple and a pink, isn't it?
So what I did with this was, it was this color here, and
The
the
blue
reason,
and purple one.
Yes, the reason I used this was, as you said, I couldn't wait. I really wanted this color, but I had to wait for it. So I said, all right, fine, I'll use this one, and I used
You have a pink
I
one.
use this one. Well, here I can poke it from
The
under
actual
here.
ones, no
These
one
are the
needs to know,
actual
it's
ones.
magical.
Those are the ones that I used.
It is
So
the
believe
other
it or
version
not-
of this color. It's color 51.
Okay,
yeah.
right, 51.
51,
Right.
exactly.
So that's that.
We know the numbers.
So you never, you know it by the numbers. So you
can't tell.
can't tell what's really going to happen.
Yeah, I would have thought you had a brighter pink color closer to this one or that one in there. That's very interesting.
Just like with this one here, I got this. I was really surprised to get this shot of golden orange in there.
Now, if your viewers can see closely, if we both hold these up together, there's a difference here in gauge. Gauge always matters. I'm sure Ginger's talked about that with you. On the original pattern on Ravelry, the Zick Zack calls for a number 3. And Ginger knit hers on a number 3 because she follows instructions. We've already determined that I don't. And I used a 5 on one and a 6 on others.
Oh, even a 6?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And because I have experience with Millie Baby, I knew that for gloves I would use a 4 and for a scarf I would use a 6. So when I saw the pattern said a 3, I said, no way. And just took out my 5s and 6s and I just did it that way.
Right.
I think that the knitter who did the original one must be an extremely loose knitter because of her dimensions on her scarf and her finished using the number 3 was bigger than some others are getting.
Yes.
Now because this pattern uses knit twos togethers and knits into the fronts and the backs, it's a little difficult on a number 3 if someone's a snug knitter to be able to work those stitches.
You have to loosen up for those decreases.
Exactly, and loosening up is hard. So that's why I said, I'm just going to do it on a bigger needle, and then it's fine that way.
Now, I did have a customer that she's a loose knitter to start out with.
Yeah.
She did it in a size 5. Now, hers, because it's, if you think yours is loose.
She's really loose.
She's really loose. It's very, very open. But the nice thing about it is you could still wear it like a very generous scarf.
Yes.
But if you put it down on your shoulders, it's like a nice little shawl, too.
Is she happy with it?
Oh, she's thrilled with it.
Well, then
She
that's-
loves it. Yeah,
that's
but
the
it's
most.
but it's funny. People come in, they see that they're either very attracted to the looser one or attracted to the tighter one.
Yeah.
It just depends on.
Well, and then by
you.
contrast, so when I take these to shows, there are people who love the multicolors and the frenetic energy of these, and then there's others who can't, it's too much. My mother's in that camp. She comments on Facebook and she says, oh, yeah, too much color, too much color. And then she also says to me, it reminds her of the bad Afghans of the 60s.
Oh, no.
And I said to her, Mom, that's by design, I believe, and it's okay, and I wouldn't mind casting on, this is 10 or so inches, so 3 feet, maybe 4 times more stitches, maybe 400 stitches, and doing an Afghan out of these. But for the people who have difficulty with so much color, I have an option here.
Oh,
So-
and I love this too.
Yeah, she gets a lot of attention, and truth be told, in a yarn shop setting, these do better than multicolors because you're there to help your customers understand. In a show setting, like at a Stitches show that I was just in Chicago, this gets more attention and sells more yarn because without help, there's not a lot of help. So without help, the consumer can understand. So what I've done here is I took a self-striping sock yarn that's a repetitive. Remember, these are random, there's no repeat.
Oh, so this is
the Jowl Degradé, and notice you can tell it's going black, burgundy, red, orange, gray, orange, red, burgundy, black, and then repeating. So you can see it, and you know what's coming as you're knitting. But instead of striping the 2 sock yarns that stripe on themselves, which is perfectly fine, I chose to do a gray solid. So can you see the gray solid going through here? And then look what happened here. I happened to have my gray solid almost matched the gray that was coming in the sock. So in this section, very up close, you can see a slight difference between the yarns. This is Folio from Berroco, striped with the Jowl Degradé. So you can see that it is very slightly striped in here, but that adds to the piece. And had I picked a red solid or a burgundy solid instead of gray, then I would have had not a gray scarf with red stripes, I would have had a red scarf with gray and black stripes, which would have been lovely too. And the funny story behind this is I was getting on an airplane, and you always need to prepare in case of delays, and I was driving to the airport, and I have my sales materials in the back of the car and realized I didn't have what happens if we get stuck project.
Oh, no.
So I went to the back of the car and I grabbed whatever was there, and it happened to be the ball of gray and then the ball of this degradé. I wasn't planning this. I didn't order this. It was just what I had.
So it was meant to be.
So yeah, so I grabbed in the airport parking lot. I got it out of the car and then threw it into the bag, and thankfully I needed to. I got this much done on the flight. And these then have become extremely popular colors, of course, because it's what people see.
Right.
Am I going to wear this? No, I don't wear red. I wear blue.
Oh.
And I wished I had had this one with the gray.
That
and
would have been stunning, too.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what I would like to do. I've knit 3 of these. I'm going to knit one more and then I'm done. And it would be this one with the gray in there. So we'd have random blues and grays with the gray. So I have blue striping on it instead.
Oh, I think that'd be beautiful.
Exactly.
Very
so
nice.
I love her. She's very, very soft. She again is on the side. You'd wear that one?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe
Yes.
I could auction her off for charity. She'd raise a lot of money.
Oh,
she has
absolutely.
a lot of fans.
Oh, sure.
She has a lot of fans. So, do we have time to still talk about the?
I think we have a few more minutes.
We
A
do?
little bit more time that we can talk
Time
about the baby
flies.
sweater.
We're having
Yeah.
fun. So this little piece, I'm going to hold her
sweet.
up.
Yes,
So
so
she is a new print. This is the same yarn, and the viewers that are being carefully looking at their screens will see that these don't have the same print. Can you see that? This piece is the one that we've used for these zigzags, and this one has a repeat that looks like this. So you have larger stripes of color. Do you see that's going on there? And in random. And then the company made new prints for it. So what we have is this happening with this one yarn. So we have shorter stripes going across. This baby sweater would have had bigger, wider stripes of color and still random on it. So on these there's 4 colors like this that have the new small stripe. So then here's another option for your customer who's
Are they
uncomfortable.
all baby colors? Or
Actually, no, because baby isn't baby anymore anyway.
Okay, right.
This is the most baby of the colors because I was doing a small sweater. What the company did, I believe, is they made it so somebody could knit a zigzag without having to use 2 balls of yarn. See, these stripes are short enough. They're about the same distance as across from here. So you could take 1 ball of this times 3 or 4 or whatever and just knit with the 1 ball and not have to do any striping.
Okay.
Yeah, so I brought this to show you the new color print that they're doing with the machinery. It's just wonderful. Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. And again, I don't know what's happening. Your eye is trying to make these match. The seams don't have a color match. There's no matchy-matchy on any of these.
You're right.
Yeah, and you can see on the side seams, there's no matching. Is this the right camera? There's no matching.
They're gonna.
Yeah, it just does its own thing. But your eye wants to make it match. See how up here you're trying to make that match, but that doesn't match. Yeah, it's fun. Somebody who needs to be really controlled about their knitting needs to use yarns like this one, not like that one. So this just adds to the trend that's happening in knitting now with the easy knitting that looks impressive, but with not a lot of work. So your friends and neighbors don't need to know that this was a field trip of happy 12 stitches, just keep going and not thinking once you get it set up. They don't need to know that. They can look at it and say, oh, that Ginger, she's so talented.
Well, this is what I tell everybody. It's like everybody will think that you are this color genius.
Yes.
And work so hard.
Yes.
And you didn't.
No, nobody needs to know. No. So can I do a sneak peek on, this was our It thing for winter 2015. Do we have time to look at the next It girl?
We can take a little peek at the next
Mrs. Watson
girl, yeah.
So Mrs. Watson is the next It girl. This would be for fall winter 2015-16. That's coming up. So let's hold her up. She is spectacular. So this is a pattern done by Martina Brem, who is the Hitchhiker fame. She's the designer of Hitchhiker on Ravelry. It's one of the most popular patterns on Ravelry. This is done with ultra alpaca, either in the sport weight or the worsted weight. I use worsted. So let's hold your end up. That's where you start.
Okay.
Whereas with the zigzag, we were doing a chevron with patterned matching increases and decreases. In this case, we're doing short rows. So Martina starts us down here with a couple of stitches, and on the dark gray, you're doing plain garter bands with an increase out here and a double decrease in the middle and an increase out there. And on the pink ones, we're doing short rows. And I think, have you talked about short rows with your viewers?
Yes, we've mentioned.
So you're doing the back and forth piece. So you can see it a little easier up here. I come across and a few, and then back and forth over this part, and then back over to this side and do the other petal. And I suspect the attention that Mrs. Watson, great name, is getting to on Ravelry. She's just come out and she's become viral already. So I started the hashtag Mrs. Watson this weekend.
And I've been watching her too.
And you're watching her.
Yes.
So I only have a few pictures so far up on Ravelry. I suspect when you get more of these, you'll maybe do another show featuring short rows and Mrs. Watson.
Sure.
But this was plain fun, and just to discuss your viewers a little bit, 2 days. 2 days. Paying attention in the beginning, because you have these short rows and stuff happening in a short period. Once I hit the 5th petal, I got the zen of it. Just like with zigzags, you get the zen of it. Right. This is why we do easy knitting. And then I could actually read my library book while I worked my way through. So I had a very good library book.
Okay, you're too amazing. I can't do the reading.
And it was hot days in the summer when I can't go outside. So sitting at the kitchen table with the fans going and the library book, and blew right through Mrs. Watson. She was so much fun. I have a second one on needles.
Excellent. Now, is this something that you would even consider doing more than 2 colors? Or it really needs to be 2 colors?
I would actually consider doing this kind of a thing with it, where you used a solid and then had a multicolor doing the petals, or and a positive negative thing. There are a few projects on Ravelry already besides just mine with pictures up, and you can see positive negative happening already.
Okay.
Some use light where I use dark, and some you switch the positive on here.
Right.
So I have a gray scarf with pink petals. Some of them will be a pink scarf with gray petals. I saw one on Facebook this weekend that was a white scarf with red petals. It's going to look like a candy cane. And it's not done yet. They're just getting going. But I saw that and went, oh boy, that's going to be a candy cane. And maybe that's really great at Christmas.
Right.
So I went gray because that's what I'll wear. Yeah, but I enjoyed her very, very, very much. Yeah, I'll do another one.
Yeah, this is very nice. It's very squishy and soft, and
exactly.
And the colors
it's
are just
fun.
Amazing. Yes.
Well, it looks very complicated, and I thought it looked like zebra print, so I wanted just gray and cream or like.
Right.
But to see someone go candy cane, and my next one is blue and navy blue and like a stone, like a lichen color, green.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So it won't look so much like an animal print. And looking on Ravelry and seeing all the other colors, it's wonderful to see how people interpret this.
Right. Well, there's also a lot of scarves on Ravelry right now that do a lot of multicolor. They look like leaves.
Exactly.
Like multicolor and then
Dreambird.
solid and
Dreambird and Wingspan and things like that use these multicolored yarns to their best effect. Yeah. So you look like you did something really complicated, but not really.
It's so beautiful. It's such a great concept.
Right. So we're widening they're peeking out with Zick, Zack, and we're getting started with Mrs. Watson, because it's my job to keep ahead on the wave of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been terrific, and thank you so much. Well, I'm so happy to have been able to share my guest Andra with you today, and I hope that you've been inspired to start your own zigzag in your own colorway, and maybe you want to try something totally different like this particular one here. So thanks again for watching the show, and as always, don't forget, it's important to have
for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.